I have the unique opportunity to really champion some initiatives. And when the governor was first elected, I was asked, what initiatives do I think that I would want to take on? And at the time, I said, well, you know what? I want to take a page out of Oprah's playbook, because Oprah always said what made a great interviewer was somebody who listened. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to take a step back with humility and grace, and I'm just going to listen to see where the needs are. I'll tell you what, very quickly, I realized that many areas that needed a lot of attention that hadn't been getting it until now. And we started a campaign called Hope for Healing. And basically, Hope for Healing started as an effort to working in a silo, juvenile the state. Because at the end of the day, as good stewards of the taxpayer and to benefit and to help those who are suffering, we need to make sure that those funds are being deployed in the right area based on evidence-based best practices that we know are yielding results. But I've also seen and learned very quickly that this is not, and I have never believed that government is the solution. It is a part of the solution. It is not the solution. Government can do only so much. And when I say that, we leverage our relationships too with the federal government and also the community. The community is doing some amazing things. Boots on the ground, situational awareness, all about too, right? We have to understand to be able to address the problem, where the problem is. Are there gaps in service? How do we meet the needs? And again, I go back to that accountability model. Are we seeing the results that they'll employ resources, but they want to make sure in this umbrella, the faith-based community. You look at 17 people dying a day because of opioids, and the children that you're seeing who are impacted by this. I read a story the other day in Volusia County, walking along US 1, was a young toddler, a little boy covered in bug bites, dirty diaper, and where was the guardian, where was the parent? Passed out at home, had to be administered Narcan. I'm thinking about that little boy. Not only that, we were seeing, I believe it was in Hillsborough County, 2 children in the back of the car, parents passed out in the front of the car, had to be administered Narcan. We need to make sure we're thinking about those children's futures and those who are in the front of the car passed out due to substance abuse. So we look at the faith-based community as how can they help in that arena, especially when kids go into the into Department of Children and Families custody. What can we do to leverage that relationship? And then also, I would say, charities, nonprofits, they are doing some amazing things within the community, but we find in this talk about silos, sometimes they're doing great things, but they're over here doing X, and we have the state working with Y. And so how can we, again, collaborate with these different entities to make sure that we're getting best practices? So we're going to be doing this in a various different ways. We've got some really great initiatives in the short run. I think we've talked about, a website. Everybody says a website. What about a website? But we're really going to change the philosophy behind how people are getting information. Because when you're in crisis, you shouldn't have to read a dissertation paper about how to get help. You should be able to get it quickly and be able to digest it very easily. And so that's something we're going to do. There's also a very special component about being able to contact somebody directly and get on the phone and talk about a problem, because you might need help for what you think is X, but when you peel back the layers of the onion, really you might need help for Y. And sometimes a computer algorithm might not get you there. So we're looking at innovative ways. I said before when we launched this initiative that we need really a 21st century approach to mental health and substance abuse. And the exciting announcement that I wanted to make was about Sheriff Lima. One of the things that I think I've heard across the state without question is we need to be putting resources and dollars and attention behind prevention. There are so many great programs out there that are yielding tremendous benefits. The Secretary of Department of Juvenile Justice, Simone Marstiller, was at the mansion not too long ago. She brought some of her youth ambassadors. There was this young boy, Timmy, who came through the program, phenomenal young kid, was going down the wrong path, had a mentor through one of these prevention programs, and it changed his life because he had that accountability and he had somebody in his life that cared about him. Do you know where Timmy is today? He is on his track, on his way to be president of the United States. That's what he tells, and I believe he's going to do it. And you know what? It goes back to this initiative of hope. He needed hope for his future. He needed someone to take an interest in him and to be able to say that you can succeed and live the American dream. And it took that, something as just as simple as somebody giving him the attention that he deserved. So back to Sheriff Lima. So one of my initiatives that I'm going to spearhead, and we're going to start today, is I'm going to start a First Lady's Drug Abuse Prevention Panel. And I've asked Sheriff Lima, who's on the front lines with drug abuse and understanding the ramifications from the child to the parent's perspective, and what we can do, best practices, innovative solutions. I asked him to chair this panel, and very quickly as we start to get into the school year, we want to start implementing some of these ideas to make sure that kids know the ramifications of drugs. And not only that, when we talk about opioid abuse and 17 people dying a day, for kids to understand what to do if somebody in their home is doing drugs, where do I go? Who do I turn to? Or maybe a friend. I know that you guys are very familiar. Yesterday, the State Board of Education came out with a rule, 5 hours of mental health training, 6th through 12th grades. We think that's a tremendous first step. Part of that rule encompasses substance abuse, and coming up the next State Board of Education meeting, they're going to be talking about a rule specifically talking about substance abuse, because when you talk about mental health, substance abuse is a big component in that. So I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate Sheriff Lima accepting and his energy and intelligence that he brings to this. And I also think Sheriff Mina is going to be an incredible asset to this initiative. He's going to be a big player in this as well. And I invite him now to come up and say a few words.
Well, thank you, First Lady, and thank you for taking the time to come here to Central Florida and actually listen to the experts up in that room. So many great things are happening in our area that probably all of our residents and maybe the people who need services don't even realize, because I know in many instances my deputies struggle with where to get services from or for these folks that we're running into, whether it's substance abuse or mental health, and so many of the issues that we deal with involving crime, involving the issues, the quality of life issues in our communities, deal with substance abuse and deal with this mental health crisis as well. And they're so very intertwined. And I said this upstairs that, me and Sheriff Lynn, we didn't get into this business to put people in jail, right? Especially those who are going through mental crisis, especially those who are dealing with disease of addiction. We got into this job to put the real bad people in jail and to help the rest of the community that needs help. So very interested in seeing how we can move forward and get everyone out of their silos, as was already said, and kind of work together to really end substance abuse, the mental health crisis that we're all dealing with, and happy to work with everyone up in that listening session. And again, thanks to the First Lady for coming to Central Florida, talking to the boots on the ground, the actual experts. And, I would tell them the story upstairs that I was out with one of my deputies, and he had just revived someone with Narcan, and there I'm, he's telling the sheriff that he literally just saved someone's life, and he was acting like it was no big deal because he had done it over and over and over again using Narcan. So still continues to be a crisis in our area, although in Orange County, in our jurisdiction, we're seeing some good decreases, and we believe that's because of the awareness program. We believe it's because of the use of Narcan. So we need more of that, more awareness, prevention, and intervention, and heard about some great programs in some of the jails that are going on to get people off out of the addiction that they're involved in. So looking forward to working with everyone moving forward. Thank you.
We'll have the Secretary of Department of Juvenile Justice.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. DeSantis, for inviting me to be part of your listening tour. I can tell you I have learned a great deal just today. Thank you, Sheriff Lima, for hosting us today. I'm really actually very heartened that my law enforcement partners are here to talk about what normally law enforcement wouldn't necessarily be talking about, and that is mental health and substance abuse, right? We're not just pulling people off the street and kids off the street and arresting them. These are things that we have to deal with, the underlying issues. I'm going to give you a few statistics. 55% of the kids that come into my care, and by that I mean commitment programs, right? Residential commitment programs. 55% of my kids have mental health issues. And more, those mental health issues are intensive mental health issues that need, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months to be dealt with issues. 33% of the kids in residential commitment have substance abuse issues. On the prevention side, a bit more than 27% of kids we assess and who we put into our prevention programming have mental health issues, substance abuse issues, early. Prevention and early intervention, as Sheriff Lima said, criminal activity, there's normally a lot of underlying issues, right? And if we don't deal with those things early enough, they end up becoming my kids. So I look forward to the continued conversation, and I'm very grateful to the First Lady for starting the conversation.
Thank you, Secretary. And then we'll have Secretary Mayhew say a few words from Healthcare Administration. Thank you, First Lady, and I'm honored to be part of this effort and grateful to the First Lady for the sense of urgency that she is providing to this critical issue area. For far too long, a lot of conversation, a lot of talk, and not enough action. And what I know about Governor DeSantis and the First Lady is that they are committed to taking action and to being bold. Today, we still see that too many jails are the providers of mental health services, that we have failed some of our most vulnerable citizens and individuals. When you think about the 28-year-old with schizophrenia who may be in a revolving door in and out of an inpatient psychiatric hospital or in and out of the emergency department, the mother who is pregnant and addicted to opioids and not sure how to get access to treatment, and the babies today being born drug affected, thousands of babies born, the number of grandmothers and grandfathers who are raising their grandchildren because our families have been ravaged and torn apart because of substance abuse. Well, and I would say just to thank you to the media for coming, and I mean that with all sincerity, because at the end of the day, we talk about silos. If we're just speaking amongst ourselves in a silo, we can't get the information to the people out here, out in your viewing audience who needs it. There are a lot of great programs, a lot of good things that are going on, but if they don't know that they exist, then they'll never be utilized in the way that they should be, and we'll never see the outcomes that we need for the people who are suffering. So with that, I'd be happy, and I'll speak for the team. If anybody questions for me or anyone else.
A lot of things were talked about
Yes.
as far as recognizing earlier problems with addiction, problems
Yeah.
with substance abuse, and also problems with mental health. But specifically, with the initiative being announced today, what is it going to do differently to get the people younger? Because I
Yeah.
think everybody's pretty much in agreement
Yeah.
that right now they're not recognized until they've already crossed the legal.
That's great. So I think a big key component of that, and to my knowledge, it was the first time this has happened in any state across the country, was that mental health component with the schools, the 5 hours. What that does is it recognizes the warning signs, the symptoms, what someone should do if they recognize the warning symptoms for somebody who has mental illness, if it pertains to their families. And that's a good starting point as far as recognizing it. A lot of prevention programs that are out there. We did something with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Again, I talk about that component of that human element, that mentor of somebody who can be involved in these kids' lives as far as an after-school program. And they, with something that has been allocated in the budget too, $5.5 million for the mental health first aid training. I don't know if you saw that, but basically that's training that I think at least 700 educators have received. It's a train the trainer model. And basically that is learning the warning signs and symptoms and what to do if you notice something. So that's in the schools, that's in these after school programs. It's an evidence-based model. But then you recognize this and then making sure that we're communicating in a collaborative way so that we're getting that meaningful care. And so I think another key component of this, and why I think this initiative is so great is because for the first time, we're getting situational awareness about where we are as a state. We're getting data about prevalence rates. We want to see what parts of the state maybe are more prone to depression or schizophrenia. And then let's make sure we're deploying our resources and communicating in a substantive way that we're addressing that problem. So really, it's a multifaceted approach. And I think that one of the great things about just doing this listening session is getting people into the room together to talk. And you'd be surprised at some of these listening sessions that we've been meeting for the first time to be able to talk about it. I think awareness, reducing the stigma, trying to make a difference at the end of the day is what this entire initiative is all about, and saving lives, to your point, and using a 21st century approach to do that. We have to make sure, as other people have said, if there are programs that are being funded, are they bearing fruit? You know, it's not the inertia of just government doing it the same way over and over. Let's prove to us that we're seeing positive results based in evidence. And then you know what? This collaboration is so great because if you have a best practice in Southwest Florida, well, Northeast Florida, maybe they should be incorporating some of those methodologies to be able to make a difference. So it really, it's a very powerful thing, I think, at the end of the day. So. Good question. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
If nobody else has a comment on
You
question.
sure can, as long as it's.
Things that always got in the way of what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
We're just here to death prize.
Yes, sir. I get it.
Asking kids the question they need to ask them. What's going on at home and all that. How do you get over that hurdle?
Well, I think what we're going to be unveiling are ways that people can get help knowing that their privacy is not going to be compromised. Because I totally agree with you. At the end of the day, if you feel that somebody's going to be data mining information on you when you want to seek out help, you're going to be less likely to seek out that help.
I think the teachers are afraid it's going to blow back in their face.
If the teacher is,
If the teachers are afraid it's going to blow back in their face if they ask the wrong question.
well, I think there's some good programs being deployed with this mental health first aid that helps